Week 9 of the fantasy football season. Here's top 15 quarterbacks. I'm ranking this week number 1, Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs. I know Patrick Mahomes, he had a bad game last week with the illness, but he played through it. And the Denver Broncos got pressure on him early and often. But I think Mahomes bounces back this week, hopefully 100% and not ill anymore. And this is going to be a monster shootout game versus the Miami Dolphins. So we know the Dolphins, they're vulnerable, giving up points this season. So right now, big game in Germany, big crowd. Obviously, 9:30 game here in the States. Patrick Mahomes, usually after a bad game in his career, he comes back with a big one, and I'm thinking he'll do that once again this week. Number 2, Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. So another great season it's been for Josh Allen. And the only knock on him is obviously turnovers, but he's overcome the turnovers a lot and still putting up monster fantasy points week in and week out. So this week here, he's in a potential huge shootout ball game at Cincinnati. Sunday Night Football, it's going to be a big one, no doubt about it. 2 upper teams in the AFC. And Josh Allen's getting things going with Stephon Diggs this season back on the same page. Gabe Davis has had a better year than he had last season. And Dalton Kincaid now, rookie tight end they drafted in the first round, is really getting going and on the verge of a breakout. So I got him at 2, 3, Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles. So Hurts and the Eagles versus division rival, the Dallas Cowboys. And this is going to be a huge ball game, obviously, with the Cowboys 5-2 coming in and Hurts and the Eagles 7-1. So Hurts, I know he's banged up a little bit with the knee injury, but he toughed it out. They beat the Commanders in that one. And him and A.J. Brown, what a duo it's been this season. And obviously the most dangerous duo possible besides Tua and Tyreek Hill and Mahomes, obviously, and Travis Kelce. They're right up there with that duo. So right now, for matchup versus Dallas, no doubt about it. But I think this game could be a potential shootout, even though they're 2 good defenses going at it. Number 4, Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens. So last week, Lamar, he had a down game, only 14 fantasy points. But obviously, Gus Edwards had 3 goal line touches in that ball game. So right now, Lamar will get back on track. Him and Mark Andrews have been getting things going once again, like they have a lot throughout their careers. But he's getting back to the basics with Andrews, and his throwing's been better at the football. And even Rashad Bateman we've seen the last few weeks make some plays. So this week here, versus a young Seattle secondary and a team I think Lamar could take advantage of, I got him at 4, number 5, Tua of the Miami Dolphins. So like I said, this is going to be a shootout. Germany ball game, big crowd. And Tua and Tyreek Hill, the most dangerous combo, in my opinion, in the NFL. Obviously, Hurts and Brown and Kelce and Mahomes are close, but I think Tua and Hill win that battle right there. So Tyreek Hill's burning all the secondaries. Tua's throwing perfect footballs. And Jalen Waddle as well. What a 1-2 combo that is with Hill and Waddle. Possibly the best 1-2 receiver combo in the league. So last week, Waddle went over 120 yards. And this Chief defense is definitely improved, but I think this week, once again, Tua could pick them apart and put up numbers. Number 6, Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals. So Joe Burrow, we know the first month of the season, a lot of it out and playing through the pain with the calf injury, but now he's looked 100% over the last few weeks. That bye week definitely refreshed him, and this is a big matchup here with the Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals. So last season, we know Burrow and this Bengal team went into Buffalo and beat them in the playoffs. So Joe Burrow, we know he comes and shows up for the big games. Last week, they had an easy victory at the San Francisco 49ers. And right now, where you got a wide receiver like Jamar Chase playing great football and T. Higgins starting to come around and Tyler Boyd, I think Burrow once again has a great game, even versus a tough defense in this one. Number 7, Justin Herbert for Los Angeles Chargers. So Herbert and the Chargers, definitely a tough matchup at the New York Jets. And Herbert, I think he's a top talent in this league. We know he's got a great arm. We know he's got a good IQ, and he's got good receivers as well, Keenan Allen, Joshua Palmer, and you got Austin Eckler, one of the better receiving backs out of the backfield. So with all those factors, even though at a tough defense of the New York Jets that played well versus Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts this season, I think Herbert still goes out there and puts in a solid performance. And this is a big game, 3-4 the Chargers, and the Jets are 4-3. So both these teams obviously fighting for a wild card as the season goes on. Number 8, Derek Carr of the New Orleans Saints. And Derek Carr, the last 3 weeks, 300-plus yard ball games for Carr. And this week here, great matchup versus Chicago Bears, one of the weakest secondaries in the league. And he's got great weapons, Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, Rashid Shaheed. And Derek Carr really could stretch the field. And you got Alvin Kamara, who's catching a ton of passes out of the backfield and a big yard after catch guy. So this week here with a good matchup and quarterback being a weak position after the top 7 guys, Derek Carr easily could slide in to that number 8 spot this week. Number 9, Sam Howell of the Washington Commanders. So Sam Howell, it's been a great season here for Howell, no doubt about it. I know he's had two big games this season. Earlier in the year versus the Buffalo Bills, where he only had one fantasy point. And then a couple weeks ago at the New York Giants, he didn't do much. But last week, what a game it was, 397 pass yards and 3 passing touchdowns within it, though, versus the Philadelphia Eagles. So this week here, it's a decent matchup with the New England Patriots. We know their defense in the secondary is banged up. Matthew Judon possibly out for the season as well. He's already missed multiple weeks. And Howell has a good rapport with Terry McLaurin, Logan Thomas, and hopefully Jahan Dotson is starting to come around after a big ball game last week. So this week here, I know it could go either way for Sam Howell, but he's a gamer, and he's another quarterback that's a gunslinger, and he takes a lot of chances down the field. So this week, I got him in 9, number 10, Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys. So Dak Prescott, the last 2 weeks, he silenced the critics with big ball games. Week 6 at the Los Angeles Chargers, he went in there and had a big game with 26 fantasy points. And then last week, going over 300 yards passing and 4 passing touchdowns versus the Rams, torching them in that game. So this week here, tougher matchup with the Philadelphia Eagles, a team that obviously has had a good track record versus Dallas Cowboys, especially in Philly. So right now, Dak, the confidence is back for him. He looked definitely good in that ball game. Him and CeeDee Lamb hooking up multiple times, hitting Jake Ferguson in the end zone. And Dak, as long as you don't turn the football over and makes the smart decisions, they have the weapons, is this Cowboy offense. But I still don't 100% trust them, but with a lot of buys and quarterback being in a bad position for the most part after the top 7. I got him at 10, number 11, CJ Stroud of the Houston Texans. So Stroud, it's been a solid rookie season here for the youngster. So CJ Stroud's got poise in the pocket. I know last week wasn't a good game at all, and it's just one of those games where it was a bad performance on the road and a tough loss at an 0-6 Panther team at the time. But this week they go back home, and Stroud's been better at home than he's been on the road this season. So Tampa Bay coming to town. We know they got a solid defense for the most part. But CJ Stroud, like I said, smart decision making, and he's got good weapons. Nico Collins, Tank Dell, another rookie, Dalton Schultz, who's had a good track record versus Tampa in his career. And I think Stroud bounces back with a good one. Number 12, Baker Mayfield of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, staying in the same game. So Baker Mayfield, got to give him credit this season. He's gone out there and he's made this Buck team a little bit better than you would think. 3-4 on the season, I understand, is this Tampa Bay Buck team. But Baker Mayfield stretching the field. He's going out there making plays. And it's just been some tough losses at the end of ball games and close games. So this week here versus a young Houston Texan defense, going to Houston. Him and Mike Evans have a great rapport. Him and Chris Godwin have definitely been on the same page over the last few weeks. And I think Mayfield could carve out a decent game in this one. 13, Will Levis of the Tennessee Titans. So Will Levis, I'm big on him after what I saw, obviously, in his college career and now in the NFL in his first career start last week versus a pretty good Atlanta defense it was this season, where he's throwing that deep ball up. A strong arm here is Will Levis, and he's still got a number 1 wide receiver in Hopkins. I know he didn't do much with Tannehill, but Tannehill's best days are behind him, obviously. So him and Hopkins had a great rapport. Westbrook-Ikhine hit on a deep ball, and this kid's got a great arm and a good IQ for the game as well. He's a polished rookie, is Levis. I know he fell down in the NFL draft, but you could see he's got the it factor when you see him play. So this week here, definitely going to be a test at a tough Pittsburgh Steelers defense. But we know these Thursday night football games are shootouts, and with the arm strength that Levis has and the weapons in Hopkins and even Derrick Henry to open up the passing game as well, with teams possibly stacking the box and the Steelers trying in this one. And with Fitzpatrick out, I think Levis could take it another step in this one and have a big game. And if Levis has a big game in this one, I don't think there's no turning back to Ryan Tannehill. After this, number 14, Gardner Minshew of the Indianapolis Colts. He's been one of the better backup quarterbacks in the league the last few seasons. We saw last season he filled in for Jalen Hurts a few games. He played some good football. And this season so far, filling in for Richardson early in the season, and now the last couple weeks, he's gone out there and he's competed. And they've been close games, even though they lost the last 2. A tough one, they lost in Week 7 versus the Browns, 39-38. And then last week, it was a game where it was close for the most part, but the Saints pulled away in the third quarter, and they tried a late comeback. But anyway, he's got good weapons. Michael Pittman having a great year. Josh Downs, the rookie, having a breakout season in his first year. And also as well, Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss, a good 1-2 combo in the backfield. So this weekend, a good matchup at a weak Panther defense. I think Minshew could carve out top 14 numbers. Number 15th and final quarterback I'm ranking is Geno Smith of the Seattle Seahawks. So Geno Smith, it hasn't been a good year for him, but with bye weeks and quarterbacks injured, he's pretty much almost the default number 15 guy. So Geno Smith, we know, has good weapons. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. Last week, they played better football in that victory versus the Cleveland Browns. And Geno, he just got to get back on the same track because, like I said, he's got weapons. Metcalf, Lockett, Walker, Smith, Baba, who's been solid the last few games here. And Geno, we know throughout his career, he hasn't really been good, but he fits the system over there with Seattle. And this week, this could be a potential shootout at the Ravens. So that's the top 15 quarterbacks I'm ranking for Week 9 of the fantasy football season.